O God most holy, God most high, who spread the splendor of the sky, and painted spacious canvas bright, with shining stars and fiery light.
Hello again, it's Father Vogel, and today I am out in the Terry Badlands outside of Terry, Montana, where my sister and brother-in-law live. And it's a beautiful area up here. You can see it expanding behind me, and there aren't really any trails. You just kind of go and you just kind of enjoy. It's very beautiful. It's very interesting that they call it Badlands. You know, sometimes, we consider some things to be bad because they're not useful to us or they don't serve us a purpose. So, for example, lands like this, we can't do much with it. We can't farm it. You can't grow anything here. You can't really develop it. There's nothing to do. So, got to be named Badlands. But they're actually, it's a wonderful part of God's creation. That's a place where you can go up here and you really can experience God in the solitude, in the quiet. You can hear God a lot easier than in our busy lives. So sometimes the things that we at first think to be bad really are good. And that brings me to one section of Pope Francis's Encyclical Laudato Si. And it's in the 4th chapter as he's talking about an integral ecology. And there's a section there on daily use. And so in order to have an integral ecology, an overarching understanding of the way in which we, as human beings especially, but all of creation, relate to one another in the environment in which they live. And in this section, he talks about how, for us as human beings, even living in our own skin, our own bodies, is in a sense part of our environment. And it was created good by God. He references at one point back to a talk that Pope Benedict had given in 2011, and also a talk on a Wednesday catechesis that Pope Francis had given in earlier this year in April. And Pope Benedict had talked about how God has created us this specific way, and we have to respect the way that we have been created. There's, traditionally we refer to that as natural law. There is a nature that we have, and we need to respect it, just as we need to respect the nature of other things, other created creatures, as well as the nature of, areas of the earth like this. We also have to respect the way that we have been created. If we show disrespect to it, then there's going to be problems. And Pope Francis goes into it more in his Wednesday audience from earlier this year in April. He's going through things having to do with the family. And in this one, he begins talking about the complementarity between men and women, and how the sexual difference between male and female men and women was created from the very beginning. He referenced back to Genesis and God making male and female. He made them in his image. And the part that he specifically quotes in here is a concern about some trying to totally get rid of sexual differences. And so, in fact, not in the encyclical, but in that Wednesday audience, he specifically mentions the whole so-called gender identity thing. And he takes issue with it in this encyclical because if we don't respect the differences between men and women, and that we're both made in God's image and likeness, but different, and together that complementarity adds something to the way in which we image God himself. If we don't respect that, then really we're not respecting the environment in which we live, because part of that environment is ourselves and the humanity of those that we interact with, both men and women. So, and he mentions in there that, these questioning, trying to get rid of sexual differences, or not accepting, who we are, trying to change and create ourselves into something else, which is so prevalent in a lot of the different um, sexual strangeness that's going on, is really, he said, it kind of manifests this kind of frustration and not knowing how to deal with who we are. Not being able to deal with the fact that, we are sexual creatures, and that was created good, but we look on it as being bad so many times. That's why we try to change ourselves, try to do something else. But just like the Badlands around me, no, our sexuality is something very good. We can't manipulate it to do what we want to do with it, but we have to take the way God has made us most as men and women, and respect that way in which God creates us. So he said really more needs to be done in this area to help people to, live out now that we live after the fall. And he does mention in there, for example, he talks about, helping the role of women, especially talking about the feminine genius that actually John Paul II first was looking into. So I think a lot of the theology of the body of John Paul II can really help to do what Pope Francis is asking. If we're really going to form an integral ecology, that has to include us as men and women, and to help everyone, even those who are experiencing difficulties or frustrations with their sexuality and not really sure, what it's all about, and maybe even thinking that it's bad, to help them to see that, fundamentally, what defines who they are is going back to the beginning, that they have been made in God's image and likeness, and they have been redeemed by our Lord and are His beloved sons and daughters.
Who give the blazing sun a throne, its course from east to west make known, and set the moon and stars on ways that mark the seasons, months, and days.